The Korean War, fought from June 25, 1950, to July 27, 1953, was one of the most significant conflicts of the Cold War era. It pitted North Korea, supported by China and the Soviet Union, against South Korea, backed primarily by the United States and United Nations forces. The war reshaped the Korean Peninsula, deepened Cold War tensions, and left a lasting legacy that continues to influence geopolitics today. Background: Division of Korea. Korea had been under Japanese rule from 1910 until the end of World War II in 1945. After Japan's defeat, Korea was divided along the 38th parallel. North Korea was occupied by the Soviet Union, with a communist government led by Kim Il-sung. South Korea was occupied by the United States, with a government under Syngman Rhee, favoring a capitalist democracy. Tensions escalated as both governments claimed to be the legitimate ruler of all Korea, creating a powder keg that would soon ignite into full-scale war. Outbreak of war. The war began on June 25, 1950, when North Korean forces invaded South Korea. The invasion was swift and brutal, catching South Korea and its allies off guard. North Korean troops pushed South Korean forces to the Pusan perimeter, a small defensive area in the southeast. The invasion marked the first major military conflict of the Cold War, drawing international attention and involvement. International involvement. The Korean War quickly became a global conflict. United Nations forces, led primarily by the United States, intervened to support South Korea. China entered the war in late 1950, sending hundreds of thousands of troops to aid North Korea. The Soviet Union provided weapons, advisors, and logistical support, though it avoided direct combat. This international involvement transformed the Korean War from a civil conflict into a proxy war between the communist and capitalist blocs. Major battles. Several major battles defined the course of the war. Battle of Pusan Perimeter, August-September 1950. South Korean and UN forces held a small defensive area against the advancing North Korean army. Incheon Landing, September 1950. General Douglas MacArthur orchestrated a daring amphibious landing at Incheon, turning the tide in favor of UN forces. Chinese intervention, October 1950 onwards. Chinese forces pushed UN troops back south, resulting in intense battles and heavy casualties. Stalemate near the 38th parallel, 1951 to 1953. Both sides dug in, leading to a prolonged stalemate with trench warfare reminiscent of World War I. Human cost. The Korean War was devastating for both Koreas and their allies. Military casualties. Approximately 1.2 million soldiers died on both sides combined. Civilian impact. Over 2 million civilians were killed or wounded, and millions more were displaced. Destruction. Cities, infrastructure, and the economy of Korea were heavily damaged, leaving lasting scars. The human cost was immense, and the suffering extended long after the war ended. Armistice and legacy. The war ended on July 27, 1953, with an armistice agreement, not a formal peace treaty. The Demilitarized Zone (DMZ) was established near the 38th parallel, creating a heavily fortified border that still exists today. Technically, North and South Korea remain at war as no peace treaty was signed. The Korean War set the stage for continued Cold War tensions and influenced U.S. and Chinese military and political strategies for decades. The Korean War, 1950 to 1953, was a pivotal conflict of the 20th century. It was a brutal confrontation fueled by ideological rivalry, post-World War II tensions, and national ambition. The war resulted in enormous human suffering, reshaped the Korean Peninsula, and created a legacy of division and military vigilance that persists to this day. The Korean War reminds the world that geopolitical conflicts can quickly escalate into international wars, and that the consequences of such wars can last generations.